Hi, Usha. Welcome to my podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Probably met, I think it was in 2019.
Yeah.
We worked at the same organization.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that you were really cool when I first met you.
That's awesome.
Because your role was like, I'm not sure the exact title, but it's basically like a leadership coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember then I was probably like the seed planted in my head that I was like, oh, that's such a cool, interesting job. And at the time, I really had no idea what I was doing with my life. I was in kind of like a coordination role. And I remember at the time thinking I was really bothered by like hierarchy, which is probably one of the
Mm.
reasons that I didn't really like, reach out to you to connect like outside of work
Yeah.
because I guess I feel like I had quite low self-worth within the workplace at that time.
Mm.
Like outside work, I was like, yep, I'm great. But like in
Yeah.
work, I was like, oh, I must stay within my role and like only
Mm.
like connect with people within,
Yeah.
my kind of like team or level.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be quite siloed sometimes within organizations, right? It's like, oh, it's so funny because I think we were sitting like, what, like 3 meters from each other the whole time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's kind of like 6 years on and now
Yeah.
I'm in such a different space in my life and I've loved watching like your videos on like mental health and well-being that I'm excited to dive into. But like I wasn't nervous at all to reach out to you this time and be like, I want to connect. Like
Yeah.
let's go out for coffee.
I'm
And you
so glad you did.
that's the thing is everyone likes an invite. Like no
Yeah.
one's ever, even if someone says no, like it doesn't matter anyway. And I feel
Yeah.
like, with divine timing and meetings and stuff
Yeah.
anyway, you'll get a knowing or a nudge to if you're supposed to be connecting with
Yeah.
someone. And rejection is redirection anyway. Like if someone
Yeah.
says no, then that's fine too.
Yeah. And it's funny because the thing that I've actually really loved about us connecting kind of outside of work is recognizing all of these shared interests and just like a way of seeing the world. And like, I think we trust our intuition. We like foster our connection with our intuition. We trust like divine timing and things like that. But, in the workplace, it's like, cool, you're in that team. Like I have no idea what else is going on in your life and like who you are and it's interesting. I definitely think there's something to be said about like how do we create space to take those masks off if people want to. I hate the like forced fun, like tell me your deepest secrets, I'm your colleague exercises. So I'm definitely not
Mm-hmm.
suggesting that, but I think I'm glad that you did reach out and that we both kind of have this online presence that helped us identify that actually we have these shared interests and to kind of come together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like in the workplace, not everyone has to be like your best mate,
No.
but it is nice to have really nice, genuine connections. And I do
Yeah.
believe that the more ourselves we are within the workplace, the more we are going to thrive. The more ourselves we are in
Yeah.
our whole life, the more we're going to thrive. But I felt personally, and I know that a lot of other people will as well, that I couldn't always be like my full version of
Yeah.
myself, or I felt like, oh, these parts of me are unacceptable within
Totally.
the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you kind of like, well, I felt like I was hiding certain parts, but the more that I brought more of me into the workplace, the more not only I enjoyed myself more, and this was once I'd moved jobs, but I started, being like basically creating the job that I wanted based on my
Yeah.
strengths as well. So I was in recruitment. But I was like mentoring my like the interns and the graduates. I was like coaching my hiring managers and having like
Yeah.
conversations with them about work, but also life because
Yeah.
it's all interlinked. I was bringing my oracle cards to like team meetings and we were
That's
pulling
so
them
fun.
out. I was doing like yoga stretches with my team on like team days, and I was like, yeah, the more I can bring my strengths, everyone else benefits from that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's something really interesting in that of like, how much do you bring your authentic self to the workplace? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is the kind of what's allowed, if you will? And I think there's something about like, you choose how much or how little you want to share about your who you are outside of work, etc. But there's so much about like what's authentic to you in that moment, in the context you're in, that I think we also hide. That's like a real disservice. Like if you're frustrated with how something's happening within your team, if you're frustrated with your team meetings, I feel like we're just taught to like put everything away. It's not even just like, if you really like, I don't know, dancing to the moon every month, like, and I also think there's a place to actually like be more open about that. But again, I know that not everyone wants to be. So respecting that choice. But it's like, But also like if you're frustrated with like how our team is doing something, why aren't we creating a space for people to like talk about that? And to me, there's also something about authenticity there. It's not just like all of these other aspects of you, because I think there is a place to be discerning about what you share and what you share with whom. And that's not even just in the workplace, even out in the world, you are discerning with what you share, right? But I'm like a huge proponent for people being more people speaking up more in the workplace and creating the psychological safety for people to speak up more. Because I think at the end of the day, actually, like the people who know how to improve things at work are the people who are there every single day. And I think that's a real missed opportunity sometimes.
Yeah, I so agree. And the more I've learned about like, mindset and beliefs and all this stuff since I kind of like left the workplace, or especially the first workplace, it's made me realize like how important it is, and that like, yeah, we have to have an environment where like we can communicate, and that again benefits everyone. As well as this piece just that we touched on there is like with holistic health, which I love, the more we are enjoying our lives outside of work, the more we're going to thrive in work as well.
100%. And also it's just like we spend at least 40 hours, most of us, at work. And if you're in an office like with other people, these are the people you're spending an inordinate amount of time with. Like let's make that time more joyous, more fun, more honest, rather than, I don't know, I'm just like, there's just this like some secret code that everyone has to like check being human at the door and like, please put on your little professional mask and come in and just like be a robot for the day, and then you leave. And that's actually not.
And then put on your normal mask again at the end, or like, take off the one. I agree. I think like we should be able to be more us, and like that's what like, everyone benefits when we are like that. We can bring more fun and joy and play into that, and that's actually gonna support like creativity and raise people's vibrations. I think that we can be scared to be two different things which are kind of like opposites within the workplace. Like, and it's having that kind of like belief or knowing that you can be really like amazing in your job, like professional, whatnot, but also be really like fun and have a joke. Like you can actually be both. Totally. You don't have to have like one persona or another. And just because you are like high up in your career, or you don't even have to be high up, but like it doesn't mean that you can't be other things.
And there's this whole like serious mask too, which I think is the whole thing, especially as you like kind of climb up the hierarchy, and it's just so unnecessary. And one of the things that I found when I'm facilitating is I make jokes, and look, there's a 70% hit rate. Most of the time people find it funny. I've had times when they're like, what? And especially being an American, kind of like doing that in New Zealand, I'm like, oh, American humor does not always translate. Good to know. But I just find it so important to just like lighten the mood and just bring some levity, bring some joy. And I find too, like that translates into the business stuff. Like it increases engagement. People have more fun being there. And so they're more dedicated. They're more likely to be in the office, and all of these things that, not that being in the office is necessarily like a direct line to productivity. But, like all of these things that like bringing people together to actually do amazing things is what I think as humans we're good at. And we're trying too hard to be robots. And we're trying to be like, let me put my mask on. Let me just go on my computer. Let me finish this thing. When actually, like, I think the best things we create have been when we come together and put unexpected ideas together, and like have the courage to put like incomplete ideas forward and all of these things. So
definitely. I think it's this kind of like exhale, and it's a relax. And we kind of spoke about this just before we started the podcast. It's regulating your nervous system and being able to just have fun with playing around with things without any kind of like perceived like, oh, I need the outcome, or I need to have whatnot. And like, let's just have fun doing it and take off the pressure.
There's something in there, I think, where one of the other things we've really normalized in the workplace is just things being stressful all the time, things being high pressure all the time. It's almost just this like, what else is there to do? Like, of course, this is what,
or feeling like work has to be hard. Like you're not doing a good job if you weren't like stressed all day.
You have to be stressed. You have to be busy. Every water cooler conversation, you're like, hey, how are you? It's like, oh, slammed. How are you? And I think that's really gone up since COVID.
Mm.
There's something that's like now really normal about being tired all the time, just being busy all the time. And I think what we're losing in all of that is like discernment of how many of the meetings do you have on your calendar that you actually have to attend?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those are actually the best use of your time, both for yourself and for the organization? And it's almost like we have this culture of like, it has to be busy, it has to be hard. And it's almost like a virtuous thing to be busy all the time, that I think we're losing the plot. It's like, you being busy and you being productive are two different
Mm-hmm.
things, and teams being busy and teams being productive are two different things. And we've normalized the stress. And I think on some level, like there are real reasons for it. There's so much uncertainty that I think we're all navigating. There is a lot of external pressure as well, but there's something about how all of that translates that goes into this like stress, 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 hunker down, like more, 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 that I think is actually like ultimately doing us a massive disservice because we're not able to be creative. We're running on half steam all the time. And I just don't think we're bringing the best of who we are to the table.
Definitely. And I feel like it's a vicious cycle as well. The more we're telling ourselves, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed, I'm so
Yeah.
tired, that's what we're focusing on. And we're just going to get more and more of that instead of, yeah,
Yeah.
if we could focus on, yeah, creating a bit more spaciousness,
Yeah.
being more regulated. Yeah. Like, honestly, the small shifts can make such a big change.
Yeah. And I think part of that is just like we need to stop normalizing this like tired and busy as just
Life
status quo.
And life doesn't have to be like this.
I
This is
know.
kind of what I've realized as well. And it's like, actually, we're so focused on this masculine energy of doing, action, productivity, logic. And that is what
Yeah.
most workplaces are like
Yeah.
pushing, and just
Champion.
society in general, like since we've been born.
Yeah.
But actually, there's so much magic in feminine energy, which is like, yeah, listening to our bodies, knowing
Yeah.
our bodies and the
Rhythms.
messages that it gives us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning to actually rest, and not just physical rest, but like mental rest,
Yeah.
creative rest, emotional rest,
Yeah.
as well as like, yeah, listening to our intuition, which I don't feel like workplace has like a big
Mm.
space for. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
we can't prove it or whatnot. And often intuition doesn't necessarily make sense. So we
Yeah.
can't make it make sense. And
Yeah.
we often don't know the benefit
Yeah.
of it until afterwards. And actually, yeah, like
Yeah.
there's so much benefit from slowing down.
Yeah. And I think there's just something about like creating space that feels
Mm-hmm.
so crucial. And especially for people in like these sort of senior executive leadership positions where you're constantly mode switching, you're constantly in meetings. And the thing that you're paid the most money to do is actually make really good, sound decisions. And sometimes the best way to do that is to actually step away, to create a little bit of space. And I actually think a lot of people are listening to their intuition to like make decisions. It's just like you can explain it away with logic, but with a lot of the decisions that are on the table, I think across different workplaces and across the hierarchy, you're not really choosing between a good thing and a bad thing where
Mm-hmm.
the answer is obvious. I think a lot of times we're looking between two good things or two bad things and figuring out what's the right. So we actually need our human kind of sensing and wrestling with things and wrestling with hard choices and connecting with each other, having more perspective, bringing more cards onto the table by asking people what else we might be missing, what are we not seeing, and all of those things are actually like they're going to make us help us to do our jobs better and help us make better decisions. And I think a lot of that gets lost because we're just in this like it just feels like we're a hamster on a wheel, just busy, 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 go, go, go all the time. And the thing that we need the most is just a little bit of balance, because I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um I love like sprinting and like delivering something and going hard sometimes, but there has to be the exhale after that.
Definitely. Like the seasons of life are in, we know them in, winter, spring, summer, autumn, and we honor them within, the world. But that those inner seasons happen in our lives as well. Like with
Yeah.
women, it's within our energy of our cycles, but also like within work and projects too. There is a phase of like planting the seeds, and then it's
Yeah.
letting them grow, and then it's the blossom. And then you have to let things go and things fall
Yeah.
apart so that then something else can fall into place. But we
Yeah.
don't necessarily always honor that in
Yeah.
in the workplace, and it can be quite like push, 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 and on to the next. And
Yeah.
even like the phases of like planning and like reflection, like
Yeah.
reflecting on like
Yeah.
how did that go? How could we do better? Like is
Yeah.
so, so beneficial to the next project.
Yeah. I think there's also just such a like emphasis on like predict and control.
Hmm.
Like that's the kind of basis of how we're trying to operate in the workplace, which is like, make a plan, predict what's going to happen, find the right solution or the best solution, and all of these things. And for a long time, I think that was the right strategy because we were in a more predictable world and it did work in that way. But now the challenges we're facing are so much more complex. There are no clear right answers. And actually, like the way you're going to figure out what the right thing to do is to try something, learn very quickly, get some actual information and data, and then like evolve that decision. So you're almost like kind of feeling your way into what's next rather than starting with the end in mind and backing your way
Hmm.
into a plan. And again, there are problems that really benefit from that approach and can just have that approach. And then there's problems that are uncertain. And I feel like we just haven't made that switch yet around. And I think we're doing this all the time because we have no choice. We have to. But this is where I think honoring those rhythms, creating more space, like giving people time to actually like incubate on things, to wrestle with things, to um, just to have that exhale and to create environments where people can think, people can step back, people can reflect. And there's something about how full our lives are right now that I think are incredibly distracting.
Hmm.
And that distraction I just think it's optional. And we've all just kind of like we've come to believe that this is just how life is, but we're missing the plot with some of that. And I think even in an organizational space, there's something about like, what are we actually trying to achieve? And what's the 20% of initiatives that are going to give us 80% of the results,
Hmm.
And I just feel like we've lost that discernment, that prioritization, and really like honoring how sacred energy is. These are like passionate people coming to work to do something wonderful. Why are we just like piling up our inboxes and our to-dos when actually it can also, an alternative is to be really creative together, to be really focused and prioritized together, and to like feel our way forward for things that are unclear, and also have the ability to predict and plan and execute for things that are clear. And there's just like this bigger context that I feel like we're missing because we're
Yeah.
so distracted all the time. And I don't think that's just at work. That's also in our personal lives.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like what actually really matters, like in life, in work. Yeah, because like most of us, we want to be doing meaningful work that like matters to us. And if everyone was doing jobs that they felt passionate about or felt like they were making a difference in the world, like we
Yeah.
would be feeling so much more fulfilled. And again, that would have a ripple
Yeah.
effect onto the rest of our life. And
Yeah.
we'd be wanting to do good work. I'd love to hear actually like how you got into your position or how you kind of knew that
Yeah.
this is what you wanted to do.
Well, I kind of started off with like, like activism, social change, and I studied organization development because I really wanted to learn about systems thinking, systems change.
Hmm.
But it was very much like, I don't care about organizations. They're polluting the planet. Like, I don't really want to make them better. I just need to like learn this thing so I can make other things better. And then I learned about organizations and I was like, oh my God, look at this. These are like well-meaning, talented, passionate people who care coming together in these organizations to make decisions that are going to be supportive. But the way we design organizations, the way we incentivize profit and all of these things actually get us perverse outcomes sometimes, not all the time.
Hmm.
And actually, those are levers we can pull on to do different things. So for me, like what I've come to really be passionate about is like, how can we help people make better decisions, and how can we help people see more and more of the context that someone's operating in? So that's how I got into leadership development and leadership coaching, and really looking at like, how do we design high performing teams that are actually able to hold more and more of the context and make better and better decisions. And Yeah, I've loved getting into it so far.
Love it. I love that, initially you were like, oh, I felt called to learn about this, but you're like, but I'm not interested in organizations.
Yeah.
And then it's like kind of as you take the steps, that the thing is we don't know where we go and we don't
Yeah,
know what the end result is. We just have to
totally.
take the next steps and the like listen to the nudges that are calling us, and then
Yeah.
everything like comes together and we figure it all out in the
Yeah.
end. So yeah, I love that did lead you. And
Yeah.
it's obvious that you're so passionate about it and you're like, yes, I want to make change in the world and this is the way that I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I think again, it's the habit that it's really gotten me into, both in my personal life and in my professional life, is like question what feels normal. Like
Mm-hmm.
look at the water you're swimming in, as hard as that is. Like why, and I've fallen into this trap myself all the time where I'm like, why am I so busy? Like I am like, and I know I've actually like created a list of like, these are the things that I know things are getting off track and I'm too busy. It's my room is messier than I like it to be. When people reach out to me to like connect or something, I get my first response just in my body is like annoyance of like, "Ugh, just can't deal with this right now. I can't respond to
Mm-hmm.
this person." And it's like things like that. And I'm like, oh, that means my schedule is too full. I'm taking on more than I can chew, and recognizing um, how much of that is a choice and having that, discernment and prioritization. And I think it's the same discipline in organizations,
Mm-hmm.
there's just something about zooming out and looking at what is it that we're doing? How is it that we're doing it? And not just assuming that that's how it has to be,
Mm-hmm.
but questioning that I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you've been sharing these like tools online and sharing your truth and like being vulnerable and being like, oh, like this is how I'm feeling. These are experiences that have come to me. And I think we need to do that more and more. I think
Mm-hmm.
this, and I used to be like this back in the past. I didn't want to share any like vulnerable things because I wanted to be like, I'm perfect,
Yeah.
you can't see anything bad.
Yeah.
But the more we share these things, the more like firstly other people resonate with us and they're like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like I feel seen, I feel heard, like I'm not
Yeah.
the only one. And it also inspires people to then make small shifts themselves or to like share
Yeah.
themselves like what they've been struggling with.
Yeah. I remember when I first started my career, etc., in this field, like I was in a lot of rooms with very, very senior people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was definitely struggling with like imposter syndrome and all of those things and trying to figure that out. But like one of the first things I realized was like, oh, you don't actually know what you're doing either. All of us so-called adults have no idea what we're doing and we're making this up as we go along. And there was something about realizing that, especially in these like super senior rooms with people who are like, just getting paid insane amounts of money to try things and do stuff. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's not like you hit this like echelon of smartness where you're like, I now have all the answers. I know how everything is going to turn out. It's you actually just hit this point where you're like, I have no idea what's going on. I can only do the best I can given my circumstances and the information available to me. And if I can learn quickly enough and if I can be resilient, I'll somehow find my way. And like with the vulnerability thing as well, it's just realizing like none of us are actually perfect. And this whole illusion that, especially in the workplace, I think, where we're really taught to be like buttoned up and um metaphorically anyway, and just perfect all the time is it's just not true. I remember like there's certain days when I'm like I have 4 or 5 hours of just like such focused flow that I'm just cranking stuff out. And then there are days when I'm just unable. That's just not where my body's
Mm-hmm.
at. And it takes me twice the amount of time to get the same amount of work done.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really learned to pay attention to that and actually work with that
Mm-hmm.
rather than pushing through. And I think that's the lesson we've been taught is to like push through, like you have to do this no matter what. But that's been my kind of journey is to really start to listen and work with what's around you, work with the rhythms of your own body, work with your nervous system, and to kind of like do the best work possible by being as creative as you can be and actually like making the best of your energy rather than trying to just cram it all, get it all done. There's almost this like hero syndrome that I feel like we've, especially as women, I don't know how men necessarily orient to this, but I think especially as women, we really kind of absorb this lesson of like we have to do everything and we have to do everything well and we just have to like push ourselves until it all gets done. Um, and often there's like just no end in sight, and it's just like go, go, go. And I'm like, that's actually not honoring who we are as people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not in service of the work, and it's not in service of ourselves. And I just think we need to question that.
Definitely. I think it's actually like a revolutionary act in this day and age to
I
actually
agree.
slow down.
I totally agree.
And yeah, some of us may struggle with our own beliefs and stuff on, sometimes when I was slowing down, I was like, wow, I'm not doing enough, I'm not being productive enough. And I was being really hard on myself. And you have to
Yeah.
reframe that and be like, no, it's actually safe for me to slow down. It's actually
Yeah.
good. Slowing down can sometimes be the most productive thing that you
Yeah.
can do. And listening to your body and your energy is amazing. Like with women, when we're in our follicular or ovulation phase of our cycle, we feel great. Let's plan business meetings around that time.
Yeah.
We can't have as much like energy when we're like on our period or other times of the month, and actually being able to honor that and give ourselves grace for it. I know that we have
Yeah.
other superpowers in that period of time, being like,
Totally.
oh, actually, I feel really intuitive at this period of
Yeah.
the month or whatnot, and being able to like do some more creative work or stuff
Yeah.
on your own can
Yeah.
be so powerful.
Yeah. And do you know, I have a funny story to share here. Like, because I just want to normalize like how hard that actually is to embrace, because
Mm-hmm.
I've struggled with it so much. The other day I was like coming home, I was on the bus, and it had like a really busy day. Like my brain is actually fried. And I like was looking to listen to like a music or a podcast while I'm on the bus, and just like kind of randomly came across a podcast breaking down this whole like celebrity gossip that's going on with the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively case in the United States. And I started listening to it, and halfway through I was like, this is really like I should be listening to a book right now, or like I can be journaling. There's all of these things that I could be doing. Like, what am I? And then I was like, oh my God, this podcast is perfect for this moment, because my brain is turned off. I can
Mm-hmm.
actually just be interested in this like random kind of completely inconsequential to me drama. Like, why am I trying to be productive all the time and have my brain be on or absorbing all the time? And it was just a funny, like, inspiring moment actually, of like, wow, I'm really struggling with like allowing myself space to turn off. I'm struggling with allowing myself space to just like not be thinking and doing. And then as soon as I caught myself, I was like, okay, I'm just going to relax into this, and I'm going to finish this podcast. And it was so energizing actually to like give myself permission. I think we really internalized, I know I really internalized this whole like go, 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 like there's stuff to get done, there's things to do, there's places to be, and rest feels indulgent.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I think the more I like kind of learn about nervous system regulation in particular, the more I realize what a critical component it is to actually one, just have like a better life and have a better experience of your life, and but also like to have more energy to make better decisions, to be more strategic, and all of these things. And I think we've just really we haven't been honoring the importance and the role it plays. And again, I think when I think rest, I'm like, oh, physical rest. Okay, I have this day off. I'm just not going to do anything. I'm going to hang out on the couch. But if I'm spending that whole night, I'm finding doing something that's mentally quite stimulating, I
Mm-hmm.
can't quite settle or rest. And so it's just like finding all of these different dimensions and finding ways to just have more space, fewer distractions, fewer things to attend to, and to allow our bodies to kind of have their own rhythms feels really, really crucial.
And it is a journey, like, and
Yeah.
the small steps and the small shifts that we can take to like give ourselves a little bit more rest is perfect. We
Yeah.
don't have to like change our whole life, because if we feel like, oh, I've got to do everything completely different, we're not going to do it. So it's
Yeah.
just knowing these small steps compound over time. I feel like I've been on this journey of balancing my masculine and feminine energy for like
Yeah.
5 years, and I still catch myself being like, oh, you need to do more. And it's like
Yeah.
just noticing in your mind when you're speaking to yourself like this as well, and being able to
Yeah.
shift that and yeah, be like, actually it's fine for me to have downtime, actually it's benefiting me to listen to this completely irrelevant thing where I can just like rest and switch off, is good, because we
Yeah.
do like it's kind of like we can judge ourselves for what we're
Yeah,
doing. And it's like, if I could just remove the judgment and
totally.
just allow myself a certain amount of time, like, yes, I don't want to spend like every evening watching TV, but like, why can't I watch a film on the night
Yeah,
if that's what's gonna, it's kind of tuning into what do you feel like would benefit you most in this moment in time, you know, and just
yeah,
being able to allow
totally.
yourself that period.
Yeah, and that's the discernment, I think, because there are times when like I'm like scrolling social media and it's perfect because it's unplugging.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are times when it feels incredibly draining.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just tuning into some of that. The other thing too, I think, is really like we do need to, I think, change the environment and like what we consider normal around this. Like, especially working with leaders, I find so many of them are just like going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and you see them and they're so exhausted. Their brains are just so fried. A lot of times it's like there's no time to get lunch or just take care of like these simple things. There's no time to like go to the bathroom because it's one meeting to the next to the next. And it's like, why? Like, why aren't we making meetings like 15 minutes or 25 minutes? Like, why does it have to take up the whole hour? And it's just these little things that I think we just need to start questioning
Mm-hmm.
and pushing back on and creating things in the environment that actually nudge us to also take care of ourselves and to normalize that. And it's not just we're all on all the time and we're robots. So we're just, like I'll sleep when I die.
Yeah, I did a wellness talk to like lots of different government
Mm,
organizations last year,
yeah.
which I absolutely loved. And I really do take this like small steps approach. So like you can if
Yeah.
you make small steps in any area of your life to improve
Yeah.
it, it's going to have these ripple effects. And I got such a good feedback at the end. Some woman messaged me saying like, most uplifting
Mm.
workshop that I've been to in years. And it is just knowing just the small steps.
Yeah. I really recommend the calendar thing, just 15-minute meetings or 25-minute meetings, and to like really hold that sacred. Like,
Yeah.
don't let people cut into that last 5 or 10 minutes. And it's just, again, I think like redesigning your life to actually fit in your needs and your rhythms and not just assuming. And I also think there's this like false sense of like there's some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. It's very, I think we get really like micro, like in the weeds where you're like, just need to get through this week, just need to get through this project, just need to get through this quarter. And it's like, great, we all stumble into December and there's a little bit of a break. And then we energize ourselves to do the exact same thing all over again. Like, that's crazy,
Yeah, you can enjoy your life more now.
Yeah.
The small steps make a difference now. And yeah, because we can't always be living for the future.
Yeah.
How can you enjoy the present moment?
Totally. And like have more joy. There are some things that like I've started to hold sacred that I really recommend for others, kind of in my own like orientation around work. And one, it's like having a community at work, like
Mm-hmm.
find your people, cultivate relationships and connections, and make it fun, make it enjoyable. I think two, really questioning your priorities on some kind of regular basis. I actually do this on a weekly and a daily basis where I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, if like what's the one thing that I need to get done that if I could just finish that, I'll feel satisfied and good.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's like the most important thing and kind of the first thing. Um, and then I think just really create space to pay attention to and reflect on how you're moving through your life in any given moment. It's like, am I tired? Am I energized? What's giving me the most energy? Do I need to do more of something, less of something? But they're like really small interventions, but I think for me, they've made a huge difference. The prioritization, the reflection. I forgot what the first thing was that I said, but that thing too.
Love that. I love that you've rounded that
Community.
up. Community, yeah,
Yeah.
such a big game changer. But yeah, having this time to connect with yourself. So often we are so busy that we don't actually know what we want or what's right
Yeah.
for us or what would benefit us or
Yeah.
like what we want to prioritize. So literally just taking a time, and it doesn't have to be long either. It could literally be like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
can literally
Absolutely.
change everything.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming and sharing so much wisdom today.
My pleasure. Thanks for chatting with me.